Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Nice Pink Bookshelf, and today's video is going to be a book review on this book here from Fredrik Backman called My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. I did receive this book for free from Grace at LovingDemBooks for Booktube Tours, so I definitely want to thank her and the author for letting me get this book to read and review for free. And this book is an adult contemporary novel with a little bit of humor and fantasy aspects. There is currently a giveaway going on. I think it's about another month and a half or so left for the giveaway, so I'll leave a link for the giveaway down below, as well as links for where you can buy this book from Amazon and Book Depository, and links for the author himself. I believe this is his second novel. The first novel was called A Man Called Ov, or Ove. I'm not sure how I'm pronouncing that, but I'll put the name of the book on the screen. And then the third one, which came after this one, is called Britt Marie Was Here, and I definitely think I want to read that because Britt Marie was a character in this novel and I really liked her, so I think I do want to read that. But that's, I think, the basics of what I can tell you right now. And as far as the synopsis of this book, so Elsa is a 7-year-old girl and her grandmother is 77 years old, and her grandmother is her best and only friend in the world. Her grandmother tells her these fairy tales about a world called Mimas and the land of almost awakened. But then her grandmother suddenly passes away, and she puts Elsa on a mission to deliver these letters to people where she's telling them sorry, as the title says. And from there it just takes off, and Elsa begins to learn a lot more about the fantasy world that her grandmother would tell her in the fairy tales. So that's just the gist of it. I rated this a 3.5 star. I really enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm interested to read the Britt Marie Was Here book after reading this book because it was so good. But now on to my thoughts. So first off, the book itself is aesthetically pleasing. I love the cover, I love the spine, I love the back of it. The feel of the book is really smooth, soft, buttery. I really like it a lot. So Elsa, 7-year-old girl, she is very intellectual. I loved her character so much. Like, she was just so smart, witty, sarcastic, and she never bit her tongue for anybody. She spoke her mind no matter what, even when it came to her mother. If she cursed, she cursed. If she yelled, she yelled. If she had to cry, she cried. She really enjoyed herself. Now, her childhood as far as being in school was not the best. I didn't like the fact that kids would pick on her, and it really irritated my nerves watching her get picked on and bullied and hit and stuff. I hated it. But I did enjoy Elsa as a character as a whole. She was really great. Her grandmother is so wild and fun and outgoing, and she's not the typical grandmother. She definitely speaks her mind. I think that's where Elsa gets it from, because her grandmother spoke her mind. She did whatever she wanted to do, and she didn't hold back for no one. I really enjoyed her grandmother. Now, the whole world of Mimas and the kingdoms and the land of almost awake was really interesting to me, because I'm not gonna lie, I did get a little bit confused every now and then, because I was like, is this a real land, or is it just make-believe, or is it magical realism? Like, I was really totally confused when reading this book, but once I got towards the end, everything pulled together nicely. But the land of almost awake was a really interesting place itself. It was like where all the fairy tales and stuff were created. Apparently that's what her grandmother had told Elsa, and the fairy tales her grandmother would tell her were really interesting, because they were a lot more realistic than Elsa thought, and they were based off of the people that lived around her, which I thought was pretty interesting. I really thought that was an interesting way to get Elsa to learn more about the people in her building without having to have her fully interact with them. That was really cool. Elsa's mother was a really good character for me. There were parts in the story where I really hated her mother, but I really overall enjoyed her as a character, because it wasn't like your typical mother character role would be. Her mother was very quiet and laid back, but she was also a very jealous person of her daughter. Like, she was very jealous of Elsa, because Elsa's mother never really got that mother-daughter time with her grandmother, whereas Elsa gets that time with her grandmother, which her mother really felt jealous about. And I thought that was really interesting to see, because not in a lot of books you don't really get that, especially with little kids. Elsa being 7, her grandmother being 77, and her mom somewhere between 40 and 50 probably. I'm not sure how old her mother was. But just that in itself was really, really interesting to see the dynamics between mother, daughter, and grandmother. I really enjoyed that. What else can I talk about? There is a favorite part that I am going to read to you guys because that part was just so funny to me. But okay, so like I said, the fairy tales that her grandmother would tell her were a lot more realistic than she thought. And I really, really enjoyed how all the fairy tales connected to every character, especially the fairy tale about the princess and the two princes that fought for her. I really thought that was interesting, especially when you got to read the story and find out who it was based around, because Britt Marie was a really, really interesting character. The fairy tale was really about Alf, Kent, and Alf and Kent are brothers, and Britt Marie is like the love interest of both Alf and Kent. Alf used to be with Britt Marie, but then he left to go to war, and then he came back and cheated, so then Britt Marie ended up going with Kent, which is Alf's brother. But Kent is a total grade A douchebag. He's a workaholic, a liar, a cheater. I just didn't like him at all. I did not like his character at all. And Britt Marie was the type of woman, I really assumed that she was just a lonely woman who just didn't care what her husband was doing. But towards the end of the story, you really get to understand Britt Marie and why she was the way she was, and how she got the attention of her own husband. And I really, really felt bad for her. So I'm really interested in reading the book Britt Marie Was Here, because I really want to know more about her character itself. Who else can I talk about? Wolfheart. I loved Wolfheart. I don't know his real name. Did I ever write down his real name? I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes. No, I don't think I ever wrote down his real name, but he was an amazing character. To Elsa, he looked like half man, half bear. And I'm not gonna lie, reading this from a 7-year-old's perspective, I was definitely confused about what he was, but he was a man, he was a human, and he just was really shaggy and carried himself kind of like a peasant, I guess you would say. I don't really know how else to describe him but saying peasant, because that automatically comes to my mind. But he was such an amazing guy. Like, I loved his character, and his whole story within the fairy tales itself was amazing. Now, a character I could not stand was Sam. He was a very dangerous man. He irked my nerves. He really freaked me out, and the stuff that he did, definitely towards the end of the book, really made me afraid of him. But thankfully, Wolfheart was able to help and save the day at the end of the book. But I really, really enjoyed this book. It was a lot more interesting. This book was a lot more interesting than I thought it would be, and I highly recommend you read this book. Now, keep in mind, it is written from the perspective of a 7-year-old girl, and it can be a little bit confusing because the fantasy aspects are a lot more realistic, but they're told in a fantasy kind of way, if that makes any sense. I love the little dog in the book. The dog was called a Wurse, and I think it's a Wurse, W-U-R-S-E. But I love the dog. It was so cute, and I love the way the dog and Wolfheart would argue back and forth. Loved it. But overall, this was a really, really interesting book. It's very, very intellectual in a way. And I am gonna, you guys see I've tabbed up this book a lot because I really enjoyed it. But I am gonna read a page for you guys because I really, really loved it. And it's page 172, and this is when Elsa's in I'm calling her drunk woman because I honestly can't remember her name, or if they ever mentioned her name. But and there was a woman in the apartment building that Elsa lived in. Oh, that's another thing I need to say, but before I get into that, it was a woman that lived in the apartment building that Elsa lived in, and she was known as a drunk because she would drink a lot. So this scene takes place in the woman's office, and her and Elsa are going back and forth between e-readers and physical books, and I thought it was so funny. So this starts off with the lady. So the lady says, "I like books." Elsa responds, "You think I don't like books? You can keep your books on an iPad. You don't need a million books in your office. I like physical books. You can have all sorts of books on an iPad." "That's not what I mean by a book. I mean a book in the sense of the dust jacket, the cover, the pages." Elsa says, "A book is a text. You can read the text on an iPad." The woman's eyes close and opens like a large fan. "I like holding the book when I'm reading it. You can hold an iPad." "I mean, I like being able to turn the pages." "You can turn the pages on an iPad." The woman nods. With the slowest nod, Elsa has seen in all her life. Elsa throws her arms out. But you know, you do what you like. Have a million books. I was only like asking. It's still a book if you're reading it on an iPad. Soup is soup, whatever bowl it's in. I love that part. Sorry about that. I was really interrupted by the phone ringing. But like I said, I love that part because not only is it funny and cute coming from a 7-year-old talking to a grown woman, but it is so realistic in, you know, this day and age. I personally love e-readers. I'm a total e-reader nerd. I love reading ebooks because I read quicker on them. But a physical book is nice. But you have some people like the lady that I, you know, from the story, that they won't read ebooks because they feel like it's cheapening their reading experience. Me personally, I agree with Elsa. A book is a book, whether you're reading it physically or e-reader. You can turn pages, you can highlight, you can bookmark, you can do whatever you want. So I really enjoyed that part. Now back to what I was saying about the building. So Elsa ended up inheriting the building, which was so crazy, and it is a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to get into many details about it. But the building was owned by her grandmother, and her grandmother ended up, when she died, she ended up leaving the building to Elsa so that Elsa could make the final decisions when it came to the building. And it may sound strange to leave a whole apartment building to a 7-year-old, but with Elsa going on this journey to deliver these letters and really learning about the people in her building and their real feelings and stuff, she really starts to understand a lot more than a lot of the adults do, and she's just much more wise than the adults and making the decisions that needed to be made about the apartment buildings and stuff. So just amazing. And like I said, I really enjoyed this book a lot more than I thought I would. I definitely want to read Britt Marie's here, and I'm probably going to check out his first book as well. But that is my review for Fredrik Backman's My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. 3.5-star rating. Really loved it. I will leave a link down below to the book review I did, as well as a link to my Goodreads review. And I think that is it for this book review, you guys. This was my first book review ever, so sorry if I seemed a little bit nervous and all over the place. But this book was so good, and I highly suggest you check it out if you're interested in it. If you're interested in an adult contemporary novel with a little bit of fantasy and humor that's written in a middle grade perspective, definitely check it out. You won't regret it. But other than that, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.